Thanks for staying with us. The coronavirus pandemic has, of course, changed the way we behave, like wearing masks in public spaces, even in offices, as the case may be. Now, this has made it difficult for us to read body language in certain instances. But how can we do this while wearing masks all the time? To discuss this, we're joined by business strategist, author, and, of course, body language expert Howard Feldman, who joins us via Skype from here in Johannesburg. Howard, thank you so much for joining us this morning. The statistic that's often thrown around is that 50% of our communication is through body language. Less than 10% is communicated verbally, and 35% in the tone of your voice, but the rest is body language. How much of that percentage is made up or is covered up by the masks that we now wear almost all the time?
Yeah, so good morning. It's very, very interesting because the first thing we think of in terms of body language actually is our face. The Americans have created a terrible word for it, and I really am very hesitant to even use this word this morning because I don't want it to catch on. They've created the word smize, which means smiling with your eyes. It's a horror. So I really don't want anybody to. I don't want this to. I think we're better than that here in South Africa. But the point is that the point that they're making, and I think it's very valid, is that we actually can see a lot of those expressions. Strangely enough, the bigger factor, there are two other factors around COVID-19 that has impacted. One of it is touch. We can't shake hands anymore. We can't reach out and gesture towards somebody or tap them on an arm or a shoulder, etc. That's actually a very big factor. The second one is proximity, because how comfortable we are with somebody can be noted from how near we stand to them or how far we stand from them. So because we can't shake their hands, we can't get close to them, these are also other factors, actually bigger than the mask. If we look at the whole body, so in other words, if we're with a person, we can look at feet, we can look at hand gestures, we can look at body, we can look at how they're standing in terms of their shoulders, their chests, etc. So the mask does have an impact, and it has the main impact that it has is on what we call micro expressions. In other words, if somebody is lying to us, there's a slight lift of the one side of their mouth. It denotes arrogance, because generally we're quite arrogant if we're lying to somebody. That we can't see, but there's a lot of other telltale signs we can. What's difficult is that we can't get close to somebody, we can't shake their hands, and that's a very, very big factor. Handshaking is, I think, the bigger issue around COVID-19, actually.
But this does mean that our what's been seen as previous common gestures of familiarity, and I think also just our South Africanism of how we carry ourselves in public. I mean, I was lucky enough to go to Japan last year, and we know that in various parts of Asia, wearing a mask is part and parcel of life. It's been that for many, many years. And there's a way that the people in Asia carry themselves publicly. There's no boisterous shows of expression in most places, unless you're standing with a group of teenagers and that kind of thing. But that's very opposite to the way that we are and the way we carry ourselves here in South Africa. Is this threatening to change just the way we are? I mean, the big smiles that we give each other, or the nod of the head as you walk past a stranger in the street just to acknowledge, all of those kinds of things are under threat now, aren't they?
They are. So I think that South Africans will adopt very quickly, because what I see when I'm out in the street and I realize if I smile at somebody, that's not going to be seen. So now I'll sort of just lift my hand, and I see people already will start doing that back. So I think we'll adjust, because, as you say, South Africans are very demonstrative, and I think that's awesome. I think that makes us very special. What might be positive in this whole thing is the whole issue around gender, because when I work with corporates, what I often come across is women saying, men will use big gestures to dominate and get into their space. Whereas now there can be none of that. So to some extent, I think that's actually quite a positive, that we might see a little bit more respect around space, but still we need to hold on to the warm gestures, the openness that South Africans have. It's really a matter of being aware of it, and I think there's a lot of lack of awareness. If we look at our Zoom calls, if we look at what goes on in Parliament, I think we've seen too many nostrils.
Lots of awkwardness all around, I think, is the word as well. Just in closing, I mean, let's talk some more just quickly about the office environment. I mean, I know for a fact that the beauty industry, there are talks there about how they need to spend more time marketing eye makeup, as it were, because, like you said, the windows to the soul and the expressions now are more focused on the eyes, less so spending time choosing a lipstick. But, I mean, you're walking, even in our office, I've got colleagues, we sit in front of our computers with masks on as well. You wrote a book called Smile, Damn It. Are you going to bring out a new edition saying smile, even though you're the only one that knows that you're smiling?
Well, actually, Marcelle, that's one of the most important points, and I'm glad you raised it, even if it's at the end. Our own body language is very important to our behavior. In other words, even if you're sitting alone and you're about to make a phone call and you're feeling a bit negative, you give yourself a smile, it'll change your own behavior, your own feeling. So actually our body language is also about us. If you smile behind the mask, it's going to affect how you feel about yourself and how you feel about the environment around you. So I'm actually glad you raised that point. It is a very important thing. Our smiles and our positivity is not just about the external, it's actually about how we react to it as well.
Okay, thank you so much. Some great insight there. That's Howard Feldman, a business strategist, author, and body language expert, speaking to us there just about how our body language now changes in this time of the coronavirus and all the health regulations and precautions that we need to keep in mind. We thank him for his time this morning.